Good morning, everyone. This is Swedish Jeff, and it has been a minute, as people like to say nowadays, and I hope that everyone is doing very well. I wanted to make this morning video today to talk about a topic that was inspired by a recent video that Dave Gardner did with the Replay Gamer. And this was the most recent Digital to Dice video talking about what you would do if you were commissioner of Major League Baseball as of today. And okay, you, me, have been given the opportunity to be the commissioner of Major League Baseball. And this kind of ties into what I'm doing with my replay, which is coming up next week, of the 1981 season with APA Baseball. And I am going to be doing the 81 replay. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, you'll know that on the Digital to Dice Facebook group that I have been posting 26 clubs in 26 days in honor of MLB Network doing the 30 clubs in 30 days. And I'm almost finished with that. We'll be done this weekend and doing a recap and a preview of the 81 season and all the teams, each major league team. And I only have 3 more to do, which will be the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm doing them in alphabetical order. St. Louis Cardinals, the Texas Rangers, and the Toronto Blue Jays. And they should be done by Sunday. And then that'll be done. And then I want to start doing the 81 replay next Wednesday to coincide with the opening of the 2026 Major League season. So, what would I do if I was commissioner of Major League Baseball? Well, I was watching the video, obviously, with Replay Gamer and Dave Gardner, and I very much enjoyed that. I always like their videos. I enjoy watching the Replay Gamer. I'm a subscriber to his YouTube channel, and if you are not a subscriber to his channel, then shame on you, because you should be. And same thing with Dave Gardner, and if you're not a subscriber to Dave's channel by now, then absolute shame on you. You get double points at you, pointing my finger, that is. And so, what would I do if I was commissioner of Major League Baseball? First of all, I think that it's easy for us to speculate, okay, you're given absolute power. You are essentially a benevolent dictator. What would you do if you were in charge and you could do whatever the hell you want? So, I would say that for me, what I would do, the very first thing that I think baseball needs to do, and Replay Gamer and Dave Gardner addressed this, is something has to be done about the salaries. And I don't want to bore you with a long economics discussion here. That's for another day, and that is for people that have a lot more knowledge on this than I do. You might want to bring in an economics expert or a labor lawyer for that. But one thing that I would do is, and I've listened to arguments pro and con on this, I don't think the salary cap is going to happen, but I think the salary floor definitely is something that is doable. But something clearly has to be done with the salaries. When the Los Angeles Dodgers make the Yankees of the 90s look like penny pitchers. In fact, it's the Dodgers outside of the Los Angeles area are probably the least liked team, the most disliked team in Major League Baseball since the late 90s Yankees. And I believe that if the Yankees do get to the World Series again this year and they play the Dodgers, most of America is going to be rooting for the Yankees. They're not going to be rooting for the Dodgers. Perish the thought. Why would we want the team that can buy whoever they want, meaning the Dodgers? And I know a lot of people are crying hypocrisy. They go, well, it's funny to hear Yankee fans now criticizing the Dodgers. How dare they just go out and buy players? What? Do they think they can just buy a championship? Inconceivable, right? But clearly, in all seriousness, something has to be done. And I think that that is something that must be addressed in the next collective bargaining agreement. And more than likely, the owners are going to push for a salary cap, which is going to make the players go, hell no, that's not going to happen. And we are very likely to have a lockout or a strike heading into 2027. Hopefully that won't happen. So that is definitely something that I would do. And something else is, as far as interleague play goes, I think that, like the Replay Gamer said, it was a novel concept, but I think that the novelty has worn off, not because so much of interleague play, but I think that's what's happened is we have year-round interleague play now, where it's every day, every week, because there are 30 teams. My solution to this would be expansion. Expand to 32 teams. What I would do is I would award franchises in Montreal and bring back the Montreal Expos, and I would also award a franchise in Nashville, Tennessee. What I would do, and I've discussed this before, is to have 4 divisions: the North, the South, the East, and the West in the American League and the National League. I'm not doing away with the leagues, and I'm not going to do anything silly like radical realignment and have the Yankees and the Mets in the same division. It doesn't really make sense. So what I would do is have a new American League East, where you have the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. American League North would be the Chicago White Sox, the Cleveland Guardians, the Detroit Tigers, and the Minnesota Twins. American League South would be the Houston Astros, the Kansas City Royals, the Nashville Stars, welcome to Major League Baseball, and the Texas Rangers. And in the American League West, I would have the Los Angeles Angels, the Las Vegas, soon-to-be Las Vegas Athletics, the Seattle Mariners, and welcome to the American League, the Colorado Rockies. I would put Colorado. Arizona Diamondbacks could too. They were actually originally scheduled to be in the American League, and Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time, were scheduled to be in the National League. So, more on that in a minute. That's how I would have the American League. Excuse me. In the National League, the new National League East would look a lot like the old National League East. I would have the Montreal Expos, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. That brings back that interstate rivalry between the Phillies and the Pirates. And I never really felt comfortable with the Pirates being in the Central Division. It just always felt weird to me that Pittsburgh was in the Central and Philadelphia was in the East. So that would do away with that. The National League North would be the Chicago Cubs, the Cincinnati Reds, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the St. Louis Cardinals. The National League South would be the Atlanta Braves, the Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Washington Nationals. National League West, last but not least, would be the Arizona Diamondbacks or Colorado Rockies. Either one really wouldn't matter to me. Los Angeles Dodgers, San Diego Padres, and the San Francisco Giants. And there you have it. You have 32 teams. You have 16 teams in the American League, 16 teams in the National League. And the other thing that I would do is cut the schedule back to 156 games. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I would cut the schedule back to 156 games. Some people have suggested 154. I'm sure that we could work out a schedule where it would be kind of like the old schedule prior to Major League Baseball deciding to have interleague play year-round, where you would have interleague play but not all the time. I think that would be a doable schedule, or it would be something where we could create a schedule that would be a balanced schedule. But I would cut the season. I think eventually that is going to happen in the next bargaining agreement, is they will reduce the season so we can get more playoff games. But something else that I would do that they did not address in the video with the replay gamer and Dave Gardner is I would bring back double headers scheduled during the season. I don't know about you, but I miss the twilight double headers, and I know that the Players Union voted against it, and nowadays they are used primarily for making up games that got rained out. So I would have scheduled double headers. And I would do this not frequently, but during the year when you have like Memorial Day weekend would be one time I would do it. 4th of July would be around that time of year, Labor Day. And I think that that would be a really good idea, is to bring that back. And what are some of the other things that they talked about was the All-Star game. There are a lot of people, and I used to be one of these people, that thought that interleague play took away a lot of the, mystique and aura of the All-Star game. And I really don't think that's what caused it. Because if you go back to 1999 and that All-Star game where Pedro Martinez struck out all those batters and Ted Williams came, it was at Fenway Park, and he tipped the cap and all that, the ratings were great. So I don't think it's that interleague play destroyed the All-Star game. I think that more than likely what it is the year-round interleague play has definitely caused it, and the fact that the games were taking so long, and a lot of the same people got voted in, and I think that made a lot of people bored and a lot of times the games were just boring, and the American League has dominated for many years. And then of course there was the asinine, this time it really counts, where they were awarding the winner of the All-Star game home field advantage in the World Series. I think that the solution to the All-Star game is, and I believe that this is going to happen with the recent success of the World Baseball Classic, is that what we're going to have is the American All-Stars versus the world. It's going to be American versus the world. I think it's going to be something like that, or maybe a 2-week tournament that happens where you have the World Baseball Classic, but instead of being before the season, it'll be in the middle of the season. Something like that, I think, would not be a bad idea, and it would revitalize the All-Star game, because with year-round interleague play, it is no longer a novelty like back in the day when you would see Roger Clemens face Tony Gwynn, for example, or Greg Maddux facing Wade Boggs. That novelty is gone now. And it's sad, but that's just the way it is. And Major League Baseball is not going to get rid of interleague play. We all know that. But of course, if the benevolent dictator was in charge, if it were up to me and I just had no, absolute power, yes, I would get rid of interleague play, especially with the expansion. I would just have it as it was before. No interleague play. So I would say that if I had absolute power, then yes, I'd say interleague play is gone. Let's have it be the American League versus the National League. And I will agree with something that Replay Gamer and Dave talked about, which is Major League Baseball trying to be like football. And that is an absolute truth. We have challenges now in Major League Baseball. There are wild card teams. The NFL has wild card. That has worked to a certain extent, although I don't think that having 16 teams in the playoffs would necessarily be a great idea. But yes, Major League Baseball, the salary cap, they're trying to be followers. And don't be a follower. If there's one thing I have learned in life, it is don't be a follower. Be a leader. Be the league that is able to hold its own and not copy somebody else. And there was a time when, back in the late 80s, it was a Game 7 of the 86 World Series that got better ratings than Monday Night Football. and it was a game between the Washington Redskins and the New York Giants. And that game, it did well, but not as well as Game 7 of the '86 World Series between the Red Sox and the Mets. Now, fast forward 40 years later, I will guarantee you that Monday Night Football, I don't know, depending on the matchup last year with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, it might have gotten better ratings than Monday Night Football. But anyway, I think that if it were up to me, yes, interleague play would be gone. The Ghost Runner, I think that most baseball fans would love that rule to go away. So yes, that would be gone. And the only time I would ever have a Ghost Runner is spring training, and that's it. Because you don't want to have a 15-inning game or a 16-inning, 20-inning game in spring training when the games don't really count anyway. So that is something I would say is leave it for spring training, but as far as the regular season and the playoffs, no. Instant replay. I would only have instant replay during the playoffs, and that's it. During the regular season, let the umpires make that decision. And you're going to have bad calls go against your team. You're going to have good calls go for your team. I really believe that during the regular season, it's 50-50. And half the time, it's going to go your way. Half the time, it's going to go the other team's way. So I would propose, and I really do think that this is something Major League Baseball should do, is leave it up to the humans for the regular season. And for the playoffs, you definitely want to have instant replay. You don't want to lose the World Series because of a bad call, which is something that came very close to happening last year during the World Series. And if instant replay was not there, the Blue Jays might have won the World Series on a fluke. And we don't want to see that happen. So instant replay, I would only have during the postseason. What else would I have? The rosters, I would keep it at 26. I think 26 is a good number. One thing I would do differently is when the season opens, I would allow for 28-man or 28 people rosters beginning from opening day through May, May the 1st. So you open the season with 28 players on the roster, and then from September 1st to the end of the regular season, you have 28. Maybe 30, you could expand it. I think that 40 players was too many in retrospect, but I would have 28 players to open the season because of injuries coming outside of spring training, maybe coming outside of the World Baseball Classic, and then 28 from September 1st on. Let's see, what else? The designated hitter. If it were up to me, the designated hitter would be gone. Be gone forever. I do think that the National League style is more interesting. What I said for many years is Major League Baseball needs to make up their mind. Either have the DH and have it in both leagues, or just get rid of it altogether. If it were me, I would just get rid of it altogether and not have it at all. That's just my opinion. I would have day games during the World Series again. I would have the opening day. A lot of it, I don't know, opening day, no, that's got to be a prime time day. But I think that game 2 of the World Series, once you have game 1, it's the main event, game 1 of the World Series, have that in prime time. Game 2, to me, should be a day game. Game 3 will be a prime time game. You're going to have that be opening for the other team. And then game 4, I would have as a day game. Now, if a team sweeps, you're only going to have 4 games. So you get at least 2 day games in there. Game 5, game 6, and game 7, let them be night games. But I would have at least 2 day games for the World Series. And I don't think that's going to kill anybody. I don't think anybody's going to die and have their world ruined if we have 2 day games. And so those are just some of the rules that I would have if I was commissioner. As far as the injured list, what used to be called the disabled list, I would keep that as is. And I'm sure that there are other things that I could talk about that they have not done. But I think that those are pretty realistic goals. And well, maybe not totally realistic, but I think that these are things that should happen if I was the benevolent dictator of Major League Baseball. And more than anything, I think that what Major League Baseball needs to do, as the replay gamer stated in his video with Dave, is stop trying to copy football. You know, you're never going to be the National Football League. And yes, putting the clock in was good, but I do agree with both Dave and the replay gamer that let's let the umpires enforce it and not have it be so omnipresent when you're watching a game on television. And that's another thing I did not get into yet is the telecast. I know a lot of people like myself lament the fact that the Chicago Cubs, because they are my favorite team, we don't get them on WGN anymore, and we used to be able to watch those games. And an entire generation grew up watching the Braves on TBS and the Cubs on WGN. And now they're harder to find than a single woman in a comic book store. You know, it is just really, really difficult to find. And it's expensive. It costs a lot of money. And I think that right now, what the networks could and should do is allow for every fan to get to watch their team and not have it always be the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and the Mets and all these expensive teams. Let everybody get to watch their team. And I think that's a pretty fair deal. I think that as far as the extra innings MLB package, I think they could come down on the price of that. And I think that if they could do that, that would be a good idea. Ticket prices, as the replay gamer and Dave Gardner were talking about, as they stated, yes, absolutely work out some kind of a deal where the fans could afford to go to the games and not have to sit in the nosebleed section, where they could actually watch the games and enjoy them. But something has to be done, especially with the economics of the game. To me, that is the number one issue is, and this is not picking on the Dodgers here, but to basically prevent any team from being able to do whatever they want. And at the same time, you can't blame the Dodgers to a certain extent, because if they're a successful organization, and it's Southern California, despite what people think of Hollywood, they'll hold their noses up in the air and say, hey, I'm getting paid buku dollars, and I get to live in a sunny, beautiful state for the most part, and I'm with a team that's got a great manager and a great farm system. Why wouldn't I want to go there? Same thing with the Yankees back in the 90s. I know some people said, oh, well, maybe they don't want to go to New York because it's cold. You'll suck it up and deal with it. If you have a chance to win a championship, none of that matters. But I do think that the economics of the game, that has a lot to do with, that has most of what to do with why a lot of fans are frustrated, is they want their teams not to be guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, but where they feel like that they have a chance. And you look at, and yes, you can blame bad ownership and say the Pittsburgh Pirates ownership doesn't have a clue, for example, not to pick on them. But those are my thoughts. And I know it's early in the morning. Let me know what you think. And if you're not a subscriber, I hate to be cliche, but go ahead and click like and subscribe. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Stay tuned for more.